Good afternoon. We're about to get started. We're giving a minute for people to join this meeting. These instructions about interpretation will be repeated in Spanish. Estas instrucciones se van a repetir en español. This meeting will be recorded. If you do not want to be on screen, please turn off your video now. We are offering simultaneous interpretation in Spanish and ASL language. If you wish to hear Spanish interpretation, please click the interpretation button at the bottom of your of the Zoom screen. You'll see a globe icon. If you are joining via Zoom smartphone app, select your language by clicking More or the three dots in the bottom right corner of your screen. Select Language Interpretation, then choose Spanish and click Done. If you wish to hear only the interpreters and not the original speakers, be sure to click Mute Original Audio. Everyone in the meeting must choose a language. Do not stay in the default. Esta reunión está siendo grabada. Si no quiere salir en pantalla, apague su video ahora. Estamos ofreciendo interpretación simultánea al español y lenguaje de señas americano. Si desea escuchar la interpretación en español, haga clic en el botón de interpretación en la parte inferior derecha de la pantalla de Zoom. Verá un icono de globo terráqueo. Si se está uniendo a través de la aplicación Zoom para smartphone, seleccione su idioma haciendo clic en More o más en los tres puntos en la esquina inferior derecha de la pantalla. Seleccione Language Interpretation, interpretación del idioma, luego elija Spanish y haga clic en Done. Listo. Si desea escuchar solo a los intérpretes y no a los oradores, asegúrese de hacer clic en Mute Original Audio, silenciar el audio original. Todas las personas participantes en esta junta deben elegir un idioma. No se quede sin escoger. Adelante, gracias. Thank you. We're ready.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to say thank you so much for joining us today. We know that you have a million other things to do, so we appreciate you spending your evening for our parent university. Today, we're going to talk about supporting your students' mental health. My name is Monica Solorio, and I am the middle school counselor at Albert Einstein Academies. So I wanted to introduce myself. I hope that I've met some of you in person, but for those of you who don't know me, I am, like I said, my name is Monica Solorio, and I am the school counselor for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. This is my 6th year at Albert Einstein Academies, and it's my 8th year as a school counselor. While I was at San Diego State University's counseling program, I received my master's in counseling with a specialization in school counseling. When I finished my program, or alongside the program, I also received the Pupil Personnel Services credential. And this is a credential that allows me to be a school counselor in California from kinder through 12th grade. Everything that I do is school-based. So when I speak to families, students, staff members, it's all school-based counseling, which means that I'm not clinically trained. And I wanted to point that out because I am not an individual who is a therapist, a mental health professional. The information that I'm going to share is information that is very important for your student, but it's also information that is school-based counseling. So if at any time you need to reach out to me, I do have my contact information here, but I always encourage our parents to reach out to a mental health professional if you are concerned with your students' mental health. I wanted to quickly share why I love working at Albert Einstein Academies. I get to do this, and I also get to work and collaborate with an amazing team. I never feel like I'm doing my job alone. In fact, everything that we do at school, it is based on teamwork, including our presentation today. We have Miss Julius, who is here, who is our IB coordinator, And she's also here to help out with any questions that you have. And so she will also be here in case you need anything. So before we start, I'm going to do a quick check-in. I want to just ask you a couple of questions. Your answers are everything's anonymous. So I hope that that helps you be more comfortable with answering some of these questions. So I'm going to start a poll. The poll will pop up on your screen and you will be able to answer these questions. What grade is your student or students in? If you have more than one student at our school, you can type in the chat and just click on one box. I know what I can do to take care of my mental health. I know what I can do to help my children, or students' mental health. I am aware of the most common warning signs for mental health conditions, and I know where to go for help with my students or my child's mental health. I'll start that poll now. Able to, oops. I don't think I'm able to start the poll because I'm sharing my screen. Ms. Julius or our tech support, thank you so much. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to answer those questions. While you are answering those questions, I want to remind you that all of the slides and any resources that are attached to this presentation will be posted online on our website. And also the recording of this entire presentation will also be posted on our website. All right, thanks for participating. I'm going to see if this works. I'm going to end the poll. See the results. There we go. Awesome. Okay. So our audience are parents of 4th and 5th graders, the most, about half of our audience. And 100% of you agree that you know what to do to take care of your mental health. 50% of you disagree with knowing what to do to help your children or your students' mental health, and 63% agree. Half and half, so 50% agree with this statement. I am aware of the most common warning signs for mental health conditions in youth, and the other 50% disagree. And for the last statement, I know where to go for help with my student's child's or mental health. 65 of you agree and 3 of you disagree. All right, so I really do hope that you get some good information from this presentation. So some of the things that you will be able to do at the end of today's presentation is you will be able to define mental health. You will be able to explain the difference between mental health versus a mental health condition. You will also be able to explain the most common symptoms in youth. You will be able to identify ways in which you can nurture your students' mental health. And you will also be able to identify resources for your student and family. After this presentation, if there is one thing that you can take away from this presentation, is that the more we talk about this, the more that we have these conversations, the more that we will normalize mental health and what we can do to support our mental health. So I hope that you'll get to learn something today. If at any time you have a question, please type it in the chat box or the Q&A feature, and we'll answer all of your questions that you have. If I get to a question that I do not know how to answer, I will make sure I get those answers for you. Okay, so if you have a phone in front of you, a cell phone, I would like you to open up a text message, a new text message, and you're going to type in 37607 in the to part, and in the message part, you're going to type in MONICASOLORI182. I'm gonna have to stop sharing my screen really quick so I can launch that. Hold on one second here. I'm going to launch that feature. I'm gonna give you some time to.
Monica, can you say what the last numbers were on your end of your name, Monica Solorio, or just repeat what they're supposed to type in?
Yeah. So it is, if you want to type this in the chat, the number that you're texting to is 37607. And the message is going to be MONICASOLORI182. And you're going to text.
Oh, it's Monica Solori in the.
Yes.
Okay. Oops, I'm trying to, there you go. 37607 and then Monica Solori 182.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So now I have to share this screen. Can you see my screen? Where it has the information about where to text and what to text. So the first, what you're answering, the question that you're answering is, what are some things you do to take care of your mental health of you and your family? So you're just going to type on your phone, you're going to text. What are some things that you do to take care of the mental health of you and your family? As I'm receiving responses, they're going to show up on the screen. This is called the word cloud. So the more that a word is shared, the bigger that word will become. So I see family, exercising, breaks, vacations, meals, knitting. Thank you for participating. I'm going to share the next. Oh, we have a couple more. Going outside, TV, adventures. Seems like there's something about doing something every day, or maybe going outside. Hobbies. Got a good variety of different things that individuals do to take care of their mental health. Thank you. I'm going to share another question. Let me get out of here and go to the other one. So this one is, So you don't have to do anything. You don't have to get out of that text message. It's the same text message. What are some things that you do to take care of the physical health of you and your family? So again, similar to the mental health question, the more that a word is shared, it'll become bigger in the word cloud. So I already see one similarity between the mental health question and the physical health. Going outside, exercising. They see eating healthy. They see biking, trampoline, so things that you can do outside, hiking. Making sure you're eating well, making sure you're sleeping well. So I wanted to do this activity with you so you can see how there are things that people do that are the same for physical health and mental health. So this is a reminder that the two things happen at once. So we do things to take care of our physical health. Something that I didn't see on here that I know people do is they go to the doctor, make sure that they have their routine checkups. Similar to, eating, exercising, eating healthy, make sure that you're staying hydrated. There are things that you do to take care of your physical health, and there are things that families do to take care of their mental health, but they're so intertwined. They're so, mixed in with each other. So we have to take care of both. And usually we have to take care of both of those things at the same time. And that's why I think that sometimes it gets complicated, because if we're not sleeping well, if we're not eating well, we're not exercising, it impacts both of our health, physical and mental health.
Monica, somebody has their hand raised.
Okay.
Juana has her hand raised. I don't know if she has a question. She might want to ask it in Spanish.
Okay.
So, Juana, ¿tienes una pregunta? Maybe
Questions yet?
There aren't any in the chat. Maybe she can put it in the chat or right into the chat. Maybe she accidentally put her hand up.
Okay. In the meantime, I am going to show you a video that defines what mental health is.
Mental health is something we all have. It includes our thoughts and feelings about ourselves and others, how we relate to other people, how we function day to day, and how we cope with the ups and downs of life. Having good mental health is not about having no mental health problems. It's about feeling good enough about ourselves, being able to do the things that matter to us, and having the resilience to deal with the difficult situations we all experience in life. When talking about our mental health, it can be useful for us to think of it like a scale. Our mental health scale will move towards good or poor mental health depending on what's going on in our lives and the supports we have around us. There are things that can challenge our mental health and shift the balance of our mental health scale. These challenges can come and go over time. They may be brief or may last for many years. They can leave us feeling stressed, sad, worried, lonely, overwhelmed. Mental health difficulties rarely just have one cause. They're often an understandable response to having to deal with the circumstances of our lives and things that have happened to us in the past. While there are things that challenge our mental health, there are also things that can support it too. These things won't necessarily prevent challenges to our mental health, but they can help us cope with what life throws at us. They can help us achieve balance in our mental health scale. Mental health can be complex because our experience of it is personal and unique. But we know that the more we normalise conversations about our mental health, the easier it will be for young people and adults to seek the support they need when they need it. Mental health is so
Okay. A couple weeks ago, we celebrated California Student Mental Health Awareness Week. And our math team showed short presentations that were recorded by me about mental health. And this is a video that I included in my presentation. And some students told me, like, now I understand that mental health doesn't mean that there's a problem. It means that mental health is something that we all have. So I wanted to show you this video so that you can see something that our students at the middle school also saw. There was a hand raised before I continue. Okay. Was there a question, Mariana? Okay, I'm going to continue.
Oh, I realized I'm not sure they can unmute themselves, and now I see that I can allow them to talk. And one is a phone call in listener. Do you want me to allow them to see if they want to ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, so let me see if Juana, Juana, do you want to ask a question? I don't know if she knows she has to unmute herself as well.
Okay. Maybe if you can type in the chat if you have a question, that way we can read that question out loud. So I'll continue until Ms. Julius, until you say otherwise.
I think there's one more attendee on a phone that has a question. Let me see if I can. Nope, I can't figure out how to, I think that might be the person. Okay. I'm going to mute myself again.
So just like how we heard in the video, mental health is something we all have. And having good mental health doesn't mean that we have no issues. And, one of the things that the video talked about is how there's this balance, right? So we have things that impact our mental health, and especially after this pandemic and being in the pandemic, that's something that definitely has had an impact on many people's mental health. But then there are things that support our mental health. So there's always this balance of things that might not support our mental health, but then there are things that we can do or things that surround us that support our mental health. On the other hand, a mental health condition is something that has to be diagnosed, and it's an illness that impacts a person's thinking, emotional state, and behavior. A mental health condition disrupts a person's ability to engage in daily activities, whether that means going to work, going to school, and carrying out those daily activities. Okay. I wanted to share some information about how common it is for youth to experience mental health conditions. 1 in 5 youth between 13 and 18 years old have or will have a serious mental illness or mental health condition. And again, I want to illustrate how common it is for our youth to experience a mental health condition. Approximately 50% of those cases begin by the age of 14. And for our school community, those are our 8th graders who can experience a serious mental health condition. Approximately 37% of mentally ill youth drop out of high school. Around 70% of youth involved in the juvenile justice system live with a mental illness. These are all statistics according to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI for short, which is a great resource. I included that resource at the end of our presentation. They're the largest mental health organization dedicated to building better lives for Americans who are experiencing a mental health condition. So again, this is something that is very common in our youth, and the earlier intervention, the better the outcome. So if we know that our middle school age students can experience or are going to experience a serious mental illness, we need to make sure that that's the group that we are that we're teaching them how to discuss mental health, how to recognize the warning signs or the symptoms, what to do when they notice that something is not right or that something is off. I'm going to show another video that discusses the most common symptoms in youth.
Mental health conditions are more common than you may think. 1 in 5 youth or young adults lives with a mental health condition. Do you know the warning signs? Like feeling sad or withdrawn for more than 2 weeks. Severe mood swings that cause problems in relationships. Intense worries or fears that get in the way of daily activities. Sudden overwhelming fear for no reason. Or seriously trying to harm or kill oneself, or making plans to do so. Not eating, throwing up, or using laxatives to lose weight. Significant weight loss or weight gain. Severe, out-of-control risk-taking behavior that can cause harm to self or others. Repeated use of drugs or alcohol. Drastic changes in behavior, personality, or sleeping habits. Or extreme difficulty concentrating or staying still. If you see these signs in yourself or a friend, tell a trusted adult. The first step to getting help is to say it out loud.
So that is another video that was shown to our middle school students during our Student Mental Health Week, so that they can start recognizing the symptoms or signs in themselves or their peers.
Mental health conditions are more common than you may think.
Before I go through this, I wanted to tell everyone that trying to tell the difference between what's expected behaviors, especially for our preteens and our teenagers, and what might be signs of a mental illness is very difficult. But the one thing that I've learned is if there's a student or a child experiencing some of those symptoms for 2 weeks or more, that is a perfect time to get help. Because, you know, as we know, there isn't an easy test that can let somebody know if they have a mental illness, or if those actions or thoughts are typical. And then you throw in hormones and it becomes even more difficult. And then you throw in all of these environmental changes and then it becomes more difficult. So, you know, I really want all of you to remember it's the 2 weeks is if they are experiencing these things for 2 weeks or more, it's a great time to ask for help. I would encourage everyone to have a conversation and ask for help and reach out to somebody who can help with that concern. For our youth, the most common mental health conditions is ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, behavior or conduct problems, anxiety, and depression. Those are the most commonly diagnosed mental health conditions. And this information is coming straight from the CDC website. .4% of children aged 2 to 17 years old have received an ADHD diagnosis. So we know that that is something that's very common, especially with children at school. 7.4% of children aged 3 to 17 years old have been diagnosed with the behavior problem. 7.1% of children aged 3 to 17 have diagnosed anxiety. and 3.2% of children aged 2 to 17 years old have diagnosed depression. So how I take this information, I know it's a lot of numbers, is that our students who are experiencing ADHD, behavior, anxiety, or depression disorders, it's super important that we are collaborating with families, making sure that we have the right accommodations for them and help them live with the mental health condition. I'm going to compare this to something that Ms. Julius and I always talk about. When somebody is diagnosed with a health condition such as diabetes or high blood pressure, when they are diagnosed with it, they learn how to live with that condition, right? For diabetes, it might be eating better, it might be exercising, making sure that they cut out certain foods out of their diet. Similar to somebody who's living with a mental health condition, they will learn how to live with that mental health condition, and they will learn how to manage whatever symptoms come with the mental health condition. If we look at depression, anxiety, and behavior disorders, and we see what percentage of youth, depending on their age, based on this graph, we can see that for depression, anxiety, the age group that experiences those disorders is 12 to 17. For behavior disorders, it's 6 to 11. The majority of students or youth who are 6 to 11, that one's the more common one. So again, it's our middle school age students, and for the 6 to 11, some elementary age students. All right, so before I go into the next topic, when students are diagnosed with a mental health condition, it's not their fault, and it's something that happens. Sometimes it's based on a lot of different things, and sometimes they're for complicated reasons. And there are researchers who are, there's so much information out there, but we are now starting to learn so much more about mental health and how we can promote positive mental health for our students and for our children. But we do know a lot about how we can live well with the mental health condition. And every student, every family has the power to improve their mental health. And again, it starts with having these conversations. The more that we talk about this, the more that we normalize it, and the more that our students will learn that it's okay to bring up these conversations, because it is scary for a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, a middle school student to build up the courage and say, something is not right. Like, I've been feeling this for a long time. So at our school, we try to make sure that we are connected with the students so that they feel comfortable enough coming to us to talk to us about whatever they're feeling. And sometimes it's not a mental health condition. Sometimes it's just them having a challenge where they might feel upset that day or frustrated. But we want to make sure that we're normalizing that it's okay to talk about their feelings.
Promoting a child's mental health is a really key, important part of promoting their overall health and well-being. A child's mental health affects how they interact with the world, how they see themselves in the world, and ultimately also affects their physical health as well. So when caring for a child, it's important to not only nurture and look after their physical health, but also to look after their mental health as well.
You got to start with how they think about themselves. And so working on a child's mental health, and in particular, if your child is not feeling happy, or they feel a bit downtrodden, they feel not confident about themselves, or they have significant anxiety issues, they're not going to take good care of themselves. The environment, such as having people to talk to. So if you open a dialogue with your child and really encourage them to express their feelings about what they're thinking, about how they feel when something happens to them, either good or bad, they feel they can open up to you, and that provides an exceptional environment for them to develop their mental health.
The home environment is key and critical and can involve such basic things as being a home environment where a child feels safe, where they feel loved, where they feel nurtured, where they're not exposed to violence, where they have food, healthy food, a chance to rest, a chance to play, a chance to sleep. It also involves setting limits as well, teaching your kids right from wrong, rewarding them when they do things well, but also providing consequences when they don't do things that are appropriate as well.
I think there's something to be said about sort of voicing or speaking to each other between child and parent about what their expectations are and making them realistic. So when either a parent or a child has unrealistic expectations for themselves or for each other, that can lead to stress. Every day, they're stretching themselves an extra couple hours with activities. And depending on what kind of personality they have, they may have very strong expectations like, oh, I have to perform really well at the soccer game. I hope I get first in the piano competition. And all these things can add to a lot of stress. We actually make our kids do a lot of things. And some of those things may or may not be as important to them.
I think children really respond well to routine and structure, and so having a predictable home routine with regular meals, regular snacks, regular bedtime, these are all things that really children respond well to and promote good habits and good mental health.
If you create an environment at home where you're always talking about these things, you encourage them to express themselves, then that sort of obstacle between you and your child is not there. So they feel very open with you. And that kind of environment is really, really helpful for a child.
Okay. Something I really like about that video is when they talk about the expectations and having realistic expectations for your student. And during this pandemic, when everything was on Zoom, it reminded me of how there are some students who were really struggling with learning through a computer screen, and how that became super frustrating for them and for families as well. So one of the things that our teachers, and I'm talking about the middle school, and I'm sure that at the elementary was the same, but for the middle school is our teachers accommodated for that and made sure that they had realistic expectations for their students. And that's something that even after the pandemic, you can continue doing at home. And again, normalizing it and having those conversations around expressing their feelings. And if students aren't sure how they're feeling, is help them name those emotions. Something that Mr. Tracas at that middle school, our principal always says is, if you can name it, you can tame it. So if you can name what you're feeling, then you can manage that emotion. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that you can do at home to promote positive mental health and nurture your child's mental health. And some of these things we also do at school, is to create a sense of belonging. And so feeling connected and welcomed is essential to a child's positive adjustment, how they think about themselves, and a sense of trust in others and themselves. An example of this is to make sure that we are providing those opportunities for them to feel like they're part of something. For example, at our school, we have clubs, and even during this time that they are on Zoom, we have Miss Julius and Mr. Ray. They have the GSA club. Miss Julius, is there anything else that I'm missing for that club? Is that one on Zoom?
Yeah, GSA is on Zoom. Math, I think it's Math Counts with Mr. Ray. And I know there's some teachers who are also there's a few other clubs running. It's not as many as we normally have.
Right. Thank you.
During regular times.
Not as many, but we've had to adjust, right? Just like everything else, we're just adjusting we've adjusted this whole year. Another thing that we talk about with our students a lot is resiliency, and how, when there are situations that are difficult, how they have the power to bounce back from those difficult situations. That goes back to having that growth mindset is, what can I learn from this situation? How am I going to be stronger because of this situation? And continuing to have those conversations with our students so that they know that, yeah, sometimes you're going to be in situations that are super difficult, but you're able to bounce back from that. Oh, remember that one time that you were having a really hard time with that math problem, but you got it? Those are the kinds of conversations that you can continue at home, is to build on that resiliency. The other one is to develop competency. So again, children need to know that they can overcome challenges and accomplish their goals through their actions. Whether that's achieving academic success or dealing with stress in a positive way. The same thing with building that social competency, making sure that they have friends and stay connected and keep friends. And all of that will enhance their mental health, their mental wellness. Ensure that there is a positive and safe environment at home and at school. One thing that I always tell students is that our priority at school is to make sure that they feel safe, because when they don't feel safe, it's going to get really hard to do anything else. Promoting positive behaviors such as respect, responsibility, being kind. Those are the things that you can do to promote a positive mental health. And once the student feels safe, or when they do feel safe, they're going to trust adults and they're going to be more open to talking with you about things that they are feeling or things that are going on. Teaching and reinforcing positive behaviors and decision-making, providing those consistent expectations and support, teaching them that they can problem solve, and, praising them when they are working hard and when they are doing something and they do get that math problem or they finish an assignment. I think typically we focus on what's missing, what's not going right, and we often overlook the things that are going right and the things that they are really good at and all of the things that they are achieving, and especially during this time. And discussing coping strategies. I can create a whole presentation on coping strategies, and in the future I will. Coping strategies are all of those things that we do to respond to emotions. There are unhealthy coping strategies and healthy coping strategies. My favorite example that I always talk to kids about is when we yell a rude comment, or when a student hits another student because they were upset. At that moment, that might feel really good, but later on, that's going to have a negative consequence. That's an example of an unhealthy coping strategy. Healthy coping strategies are those responses that we have that don't have a negative impact on anyone. Taking a deep breath, walking away from the situation, talking about the situation with an adult, a trusted adult. Those are examples of healthy coping strategies. And the work that I do with students at the middle school primarily involves coping strategies and the things that they can do to manage their feelings. No feeling is right or wrong. Feelings are just feelings. What does make a difference is what you do with that feeling. That's how I describe coping strategies with students. So, you can think about yourself as an adult is, what do you do when you're upset, frustrated, mad, sad, angry? And you can reflect on, is that a healthy coping strategy or an unhealthy coping strategy? Because whatever the adults in our life do, if I am a kid, I am going to model that behavior. And continue that conversation with your student or with your children. Something else that can contribute to positive mental health is encouraging to help others. Any child needs to know that they can make a difference. Those pro-social behaviors build self-esteem, they foster connectedness, they reinforce personal responsibility, and they also present opportunities for positive recognition. I know as an Ivy school, we promote community service. Pre-pandemic times, we would have community service opportunities every 2 months for our students because we know that it's important for them to stay connected to the community and to get that sense of I made a difference today, whether that was something like picking up trash or serving meals at a shelter or tutoring at the elementary. Providing those opportunities for a student to help others can make a difference for their mental health. And again, just like how we saw at the beginning, our physical health and our mental health go hand in hand. So encouraging that good, those strategies that we all do to take care of our health, eating healthy, sleeping, taking time to go outside and exercising, going to our pediatrician, our regular doctor checkups. Those are all of the things that also will help students' mental health. Let's see here. I'm not sure what's happening with these slides. Sorry, technical difficulties here. I appreciate your patience, everyone. Well, there we go. I wanted to provide you with some examples of questions you can ask your students, your children, to check in with them. And I know this is, to ask about someone's mental health, but these are conversation starters that you can ask any day. These are questions you can ask at any time. How are you feeling today, physically and mentally? What's taking up most of your headspace right now? So what is occupying your mind? What are you thinking about? When was the last time you had a full meal? Have you been drinking enough water? Again, going back to how our physical health impacts our mental health. Have you been sleeping? Have you been exercising? And these are my favorite ones. What did you do today that made you feel good? What's something you can do today that would be good for you? And that is a question you can ask, and you can then identify a coping strategy. What's something that you can do today that would be good for you? And then tie it back to how that's a healthy coping strategy. What's something you're looking forward to in the next few days? What's something we can do together this week, even if we're apart? That one is a question that can remind students how important it is to stay connected. And then the last one is, what are you grateful for right now? During a time where it's really hard to think about positive things, that one can remind students of something that is positive in their life. And again, all of this will be on our website so that you can refer back to this later on. So when a child comes to you because they are feeling off, or they think they might be experiencing a symptom of a mental health condition, I wanted to provide you with some tips so that you know what to do. So we encourage you to listen, and really listen. So that means stopping that voice in your head that is ready to respond. And that is hard for everyone, because when we have conversations with people, we are already coming up with how we're going to respond. But when a student or a child comes to you to talk about their feelings or something that's been bothering them, we encourage you to really listen. And the more that you practice this, the easier it gets, just like anything else. The more you practice healthy coping strategies, the more that you practice taking a deep breath, the more that you practice listening, you'll get better at it. Ask if they thought about what might they need to do to get better. I think sometimes we want to rush in and problem solve for them rather than allowing them to come up with something that they might want to do. They might have an idea already. They just need help following through. Maybe they want to talk to somebody at school. So ask them if they've thought about what they want to do to get better. Learn. So what I mean by this is really just learning from them or doing your own research and learning about whatever it is that they are sharing with you. And then support them in following through with their needs. Making sure that you keep things confidential unless it is life-threatening. And telling your child, you know, what you say to me will stay with me unless you want me to share. Do I have permission to share this with somebody else? Unless it's something that they share with you if they're being hurt or if they're going to hurt themselves. You know, make sure that you get the appropriate help. And normalize it. Assure that your child that is having a mental health issue or a mental health condition or a symptom, it's common. And that does not mean that they are not going to get better. And then sometimes when a child or, you know, your student comes to you and talks to you about something that they are experiencing, it might be scary for you. And acknowledge that. And you can tell your student or your child, you know, this is scary for me. I don't know what to do, but I'm here to listen. I'm here to support you. And you can acknowledge that your fear is coming from maybe not knowing what to do and not knowing how to help your student. And as a parent, it's really important that you confront that stigma or the discrimination directly. And offer the opportunity to speak with the counselor, whether that's somebody at school or an outside counselor, and assure your child that information will be confidential if they do decide to speak to a counselor or a therapist or any other mental health professional. And also prepare to be an advocate. Finding the right mental health treatment is like finding the right medical provider. It takes time and effort. There is no quick fix. There is no, treatment that's going to answer or take care of all of the symptoms. So just be prepared to be an advocate. Be prepared to take that time to find the best care for your child. So now I'm going to talk to you about things to try not to do. Try not to minimize how they're feeling or say, you shouldn't think that way. There's so many good things in your life. You shouldn't be feeling so sad or so depressed. Their perception is their reality. So whatever it is that they are experiencing at that time, that is exactly what they are experiencing. So I know it's hard because as parents, we want to rescue them, we want to problem solve for them, but just try to not minimize what they are feeling. And also keep in mind that when a student comes to you, when a child comes to you to talk about something that they are feeling, they probably took a lot of time thinking about how to tell you. And they were probably worried about it. So it's really important to remind them, thank you for talking to me. I'm proud of you for coming up to me. I'm proud of you for coming to me to talk about how you're feeling. Try not to let your emotions rule your response, especially if you're angry, like you're never going to get it together. Comments like that can take someone back for a long time and adds to the stress and adds to the problems. So if you yourself need to take a deep breath before you talk to your child about what they're feeling, I encourage you to do that. Try not to use the word crazy. You're crazy. What are you talking about? Again, any comments that might be perceived as negative can set them back, and it might not help them, it might not help them continue to trust you. Try not to tell your child what they should do. Instead, ask them what they want help with. Just like how I said in the previous slide, is ask them, what do you think you can do to feel better? What do you want to do right now? How can I support you in this? If your child shares about having bizarre thoughts or asks about strange sounds, pay attention and explore. These experiences are early warning signs of serious mental health problems. And acting early can change the outcome for them. So if they do share something scary, again, you can acknowledge it, say, wow, like that sounds really scary. I need to ask for help in this situation because I don't know what to do. Try not to argue. If you encounter resistance from your child, go back to listening, asking those open-ended questions, repeating what they've said. So for example, your child comes to you and says, I've been feeling so sad lately. Okay, so you've been feeling sad lately? That's an example of repeating what they've just said. There's no judgment in it. It's not asking why. So, okay, you've been feeling really sad lately. Tell me more. That's an example of how you can repeat what they've said so that they can tell you more about what's happening. Try not to make excuses or blame others. For example, this is a common one. This is a school's fault. They should be giving you more individual attention. Really just listen to them, ask them those open-ended questions, and try not to compare your child to their siblings. Well, your brother doesn't have these problems. Why can't you be like him? Again, anything that they perceive as negative might disrupt that relationship that you have. They're already coming to you. So it's important to support them and really demonstrate that you're supporting them so they can continue talking to you. So I wanted to share some resources with you. So if you are privately insured, definitely reach out to your insurance's mental health providers. If you have a family, if you are a family who has Medi-Cal or who is uninsured, reach out to us. Both of our schools have connections with organizations who work with families who have Medi-Cal or who are uninsured. Both of our campuses have full-time school psychologists. At the elementary, it's Mr. Kim. At the middle school is Mrs. Musisco. And at the middle school, I'm there full-time. So I encourage you to make sure that your student knows who they can talk to on campus. We're not the only adults who they can talk to. They can talk to anybody who they feel the most comfortable with, who they trust. But how I explain to the students about my job is I'm another adult on campus who can help you whenever there is something going on. The following websites are websites that have a ton of information on mental health and mental health conditions and things that you can look out for and things you can do. So for example, I talked about the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI for short. They have a bunch of resources on their website. The up2sd.org, that is part of the It's Up to Us campaign. They have a live chat feature on their website, and anybody can use it to talk to professionals online. Mental Health, sorry, that's supposed to say Mental Health America, not American. Mental Health America is similar to NAMI. They have many resources on mental health conditions and what you can do if you are noticing that your child is experiencing symptoms. And last but not least, the Access and Crisis Line. is a phone number that anybody can call 24 hours, 7 days a week if you or someone you care about is in crisis and needs immediate help. There are mental health professionals who answer those phone calls and will give you the support that you need in that moment. This is something that we are working on to have on our school IDs so that all of our students know what the access and crisis line is, and they know that they have access to it 24/7. This is my contact information because I'm sure that you have a bunch of other questions, and I wanted to provide this to you so that you can reach out to me directly if there is something that you're still wondering about, if you have any concerns about anything that I shared. My phone number is there too. That is our school phone at the middle school and my extension for my office. But I wanted to take this opportunity to answer any questions that you might have. I went through a lot of information in a short amount of time. And like I said, the information out there for mental health conditions and just mental health in general is overwhelming, to say the least. So I hope that you learned something today. From everything that I said, if you can just take one thing away, is to normalize this, have conversations with your students at home and talk about asking for help when they need it, and reminding them that asking for help is a sign of strength. And when they do come to you with issues, make sure that you continue the conversations with them. And if you have students who aren't coming to you because they don't really talk about these things, find other ways to ask about their day or ask about how they're feeling. For example, the questions that I showed you earlier, what is something that you can do that will make you feel good today? What is something that you're looking forward to? What are you grateful for? And asking those questions to build that connectedness, to build that trust with your students. I don't know if there are any questions in the chat, but this is the perfect time to ask. If you don't have any questions, thank you so much for spending your evening here listening to all this information. And I hope that you have a great rest of your evening. And please reach out if you have any questions, if you have any concerns about anything that I shared with you today.
There aren't any questions right now in the Q&A or in the chat, but if we just maybe hang for a little bit and see how things go.
And also, if you're still on, you will receive a survey link in your email, I believe. So you can fill that out. All the information that you share with us about what you thought of this presentation will actually be shared with our admin so that we can take your feedback and make these presentations better for you.
Okay. Still not seeing anything in the chat or the Q&A. I think you just covered everything so wonderfully.
Well, I'm
think about.
If not, then go ahead and email me. My email is on the screen. But whatever questions you have, I'm here to support you.